That looks like we might be working now. All right, guys, let's try that again. Good morning, good afternoon, or good night. It is a pleasure to be here with you tonight, wherever you may be joining us from. We are broadcasting live to Facebook and YouTube. So if you are watching live, comment and let me know where you are listening from. I am always interested to hear where you guys are tuning in from. My name is Cade Moyer, and I am your tour guide on tonight's journey. And if you wish to join me, I do have an open line. The number is right there on the screen. It's 0730403096. And if you don't want to call in, you can always call our voicemail, and that number is 0284057977. And on tonight's show, we are actually dipping into the tales from the voicemail. This is something that we did quite a few seasons ago, and it was a real hit with the listeners of the show. So our voicemail has been quite active lately. So we are going to take a bit of a dive into the archives there. And we're going to play some of the stories that people have left on our voicemail, because if you aren't aware, you can call our voicemail 24 hours a day and leave a message up to 15 minutes long. So if that is a much easier way for you to share your stories, feel free to do that. So if you do want to call, the line is open, 0730403096. And if you are watching this on YouTube, be sure to give us a bit of a like, bit of a share. We would love for you to people are saying they can't hear. Is this better? Hopefully that's better. We've got a new system tonight, and honestly, it looks like it's been a bit rubbish. So let me know if that one is working there for you guys. So let's give this a go. So hopefully that is not blasting you. If it is blasting you, I do apologize. Some people I can win, some people I can't, but the Believe Plus members, you're going to get some crispy, beautiful audio at the end of it. So guys, let's get right into the first voicemail that we're going to be sharing for tonight. And I would love to hear the feedback from the listeners. So here we go.
Hey mate, I've just come across the podcast. This sort of stuff's always fascinated me, and I'm pretty excited actually that there's something that does go in depth to Australia, because it's always English ghosts and stuff in America. But yeah, there's a lot of weird shit around here, I think. I guess what I called up to tell you is, back in, I guess it would have been 2003, we lived on a big property that was, within Brisbane, but still a fair bit of scrub around us at that time. And I saw something that, I don't know, it just always stuck with me. I kind of stopped telling people because nobody knew what the hell I was talking about or really believed me. But I was going for a walk up the back of the property, kind of by myself. We've got a big dam there, and a lot of scrub that surrounds it. And I walked past the dam, and look, it's a short story really, because it happened quickly. But sometimes you see something and it just doesn't sit right. It feels unnatural, and I don't know, my eyes couldn't really process what I was seeing. But I took a step around the corner, and this little, I thought it was a fucking animal or something, but this little black furry thing. It was, I don't know, probably a foot high, maybe two. I guess we're in Australia, so we don't have to speak in feet, do we? It would have been about, I guess, 60 centimetres. It wasn't big. And, I thought maybe it was like a rabbit or something. You get used to different animals. We got foxes out there and all kinds of things turning up. But what made me stood still, and I can still see it, and, I still get the chills when I think about it, is that it fucking walked. It walked off on two legs. I don't really know what it was. I mean, you hear Yowies and things like that, but it was small. I think my brain at the time thought, I guess it was a monkey or something. But I was about 15 at the time, and I'm old enough now to know that we don't really get any fucking monkeys out here. But it just always stuck with me. It was small. It was really dark fur. It was covered in fur. But it just walked off as I turned this corner. It was right in front of me, and it just walked. And the speed that it walked, it was almost, it wasn't like it was running, but yeah, it was just unnatural. I froze. Like I wanted to run away, but I literally just froze, and I was just staring in the bush where it walked off, and I backed off. I didn't want to turn my back on it, to be honest. Even though it was small, it was just something so weird about it. Anyway, I'm just telling a story like you suggested with the numbers. So, I'm just really curious. I wonder if anyone knows what that is. Yeah, thanks for that.
All right. So just while that voicemail was going on, we did have a caller call up. So I'm just going to get them live on the air. Caller, what's your name and where you're from?
Yeah, Dean, Central Coast, living up there at the moment. I used to live down in Hornsby in New South Wales.
Oh, how you doing, Dean?
Yeah, good, mate, good. I've got a couple little things back in 1994 down at Hornsby Heights. We sort of camping. I was only 13 years old down there, and my friend and myself, we stayed in a little cave. We used to camp out there, and it's sort of right down in the bush. There is a road that leads down there. We woke up at about 2 a.m. one morning, and we had a fire sitting out the front of the cave. So I grabbed my friend, and we sort of walked, crawled out of this little cave. He came in there, and within probably about 3 to 4 minutes, a rock actually hit my friend in the face, and it dropped him, knocked him unconscious.
Oh, wow.
I wasn't quite sure. I was sort of a young kid at the time, spent a lot of time in the bush, and my sort of father growing up, he'd always say, go out there, go out in the bush and sort of build your little shacks and live your life out in the bush. He used to be in the army. And Mum would always say, no, he's got to stay home and do a bit of homework. So we used to venture around in the bush as kids, and as long as we were home sort of before dark, before the sun set, he was okay with that. And, as we were down Galston Gorge, camping in this little cave, a rock hit my friend's head, and he sort of dropped about 2 metre ledge, and he collapsed. And we used to have a little dolphin torch, little torch you put a big battery in, and he had that in his hand, and he collapsed, and the torch sort of landed facing towards him, and I could see the blood and whatnot. And we're about 3 kilometres down into the bush plus a 2K walk, so we're nearly looking at 5 kilometres. And at a young age, it's quite a fair walk back up. And so I've seen him collapse, fall off this edge, dolphin torch shining on his face. And I panicked and sort of started walking this 2 kilometres in the bush at night time, and hit the road, walked up 3 kilometres. No cars had passed us at all. And every time I was walking, it was about pretty much like a bowling ball sized rock, sandstone, would smash in front of us. And it got to the point where as I was walking, I was getting weaker and weaker, and I just didn't have the energy to walk up. I was absolutely sick. I couldn't control myself sort of walking up. And so I've walked up, found his parents' house. We've got down, finally got to this, my mate's parents' house, called the police and the ambulance, and we drove down all the way down Galston Gorge, got to the camp spot, walked another 2 Ks on the bush track, and I found him. He was completely covered. He was covered in, it was like palm fronds, and he was all covered up, the whole lot. And I sort of said to him, like, what's the go? Are you all right? And all he said to me was there was a big bear come up and sort of covered me up. And that's all he could sort of remember at the time. It was sort of, he kept explaining the big bear looked after me, big bear. And at 14 years old, we sort of weren't too sure what was going on, and there was no one out there in the bush. It took me nearly 20 years to sort of move on and realise sort of what's going on out there in the Australian bush. I couldn't sort of believe it. And I joined up in the army in 2000, 99, 2000, and we're down in at the time we're down at Puckapunyal at the School of Artillery down south, and we had nearly 36 people out there. We're doing LFX, a live firing exercise in the army, and it was we were using these NADs, which is a night aiming device on the range. And when we were out there, we had our range sergeant sort of sit there at night time, and something come from the right-hand side to the left-hand side. We all got told to stop firing. We weren't sure what was out on the range. We were shooting out at 200 metres, and with the stars, and we just got told to stop. And there was this thing that just came across. It was probably 7 to 8 foot tall, straight in front of the range, the whole lot. No one was quite sure what it was, but we all stopped. We got told to stop. We all did. And next day we all had bits of paper from the ADF, the Australian Defence Force, just to say that out there that night on the range nothing happened. No one's seen anything. Sign here. Got our movement papers just to move on.
Wow.
It's incredible.
That is incredible. And you know what's incredible about that, mate, is you're not the only person to tell me a story like that from Puckapunyal.
Right. Yeah, so I actually got the paperwork as well, plus photos of the paperwork from pretty much the Australian government to say that what we've seen out there, what was happening out there, if we get approached by media, press, or the public to say that pretty much somebody ran out onto the range. But we all knew at the time when our range sergeant said to us, stop firing, and we all watched it. We had night vision, so we had NVGs, and we were using these NADs, which is the night aiming device, and so they look like a little laser dot pretty much. And we had nearly 30 plus blokes aim on this thing running across the range out there. And next morning we had to sign a bit of paper to say if we get approached by media, press, or anyone like that, we see nothing at all.
That's incredible. I love stories like this because I've heard something so similar from someone else that's been at that same base. Where they saw something, and I don't know what it is. It kind of seems like that range seems to attract these things there, and what it is, I don't know, because I don't know if you know this, but the base is also haunted.
Right. Okay. I was staying down there at Bridges Barracks, which is part of Puckapunyal, the School of Artillery down there. I stayed down there for about 14 weeks. And so some of the stuff was quite funny. It's not a lot was said sort of back then either, and you couldn't say too much because you look a bit funny, and if not, they start sort of checking out your mental health and if you're fit for the job, if you're fit for duty. So everything was kept quiet, and we pretty much got silence, and there is a lot more to the story. It goes pretty deep, but it's funny sort of what happened when we were sort of younger. I couldn't comprehend it. And then as time got on, and obviously the internet and whatnot, I just couldn't comprehend why my friend and I, we come out of the cave, he got hit by a rock because I knew nobody was around. And for years and years, I've sort of thought about it. And, sort of come down to, I don't know how I stumbled across it, but I spent a lot of time out in the bush and hunting, and you sort of get to know sort of where you hunt and everything. And there's not too many things out there in Australia that can sort of pick up and throw a rock. That's what I was a bit funny when I was younger. When I was 14, I thought it must be one of my mates hanging around. I thought, well, who would throw a rock and hurt their mate and hit him in the head and knock him out? And then plus they fall a few metres and cover them up in branches and look after them. After I had to walk 5Ks when I was a young kid. And it was quite disturbing because once we took the police and the ambulance down and we found him, and his head was split open, and we couldn't comprehend. We thought, oh, he's unconscious. He's sort of disillusional, concussion, whatnot. And he's talking about his big bears. Like, well, we don't even have big bears in Australia. We don't have bears at all.
Yeah.
So I couldn't. When we were younger, at 14 years old, and my father's going, mate, don't worry about it. It's, it should be right. So, mate, something's not right here. And it took me nearly 20 years until I went into the army and seen this thing. Something clicked and went, it's almost like I knew this thing that crossed the range. It was like we all seen it. And it was just incredible, the whole lot. And I've still got people's names and numbers that are all there. And when I talk to them, they just don't want to talk about it. No one wants to talk about anything.
Wow.
At all.
It doesn't, crazy. And you know what? It doesn't surprise me, Dean, because so many people just shut off when they see these things. They, it kind of like it rocks their world just way too much, and they just do not want to accept what's happened.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, as soon as I say something or somebody else, everyone thinks you're crazy or you're not all there. You're not mental, and you know you are.
Yeah. And
I've got my in-laws. They live here in Mudgee in the Hargraves, and my father-in-law. Sorry, he's an old cocky, and so he's an old bushman, and he's nearly 80 years old. And all he told me at the Hargraves, I brought it up. I listened to a song, and it was something out in the Pilliga by Sling Dusty. I was playing it Christmas Eve about 3 years ago. And he said to me, yeah, mate, mate, there's definitely something out there. He said, mate, we've got something out at Hargraves. And I sort of stopped. I thought, this is the first person ever to sort of acknowledge what I thought could possibly be out there in the Australian bush. I said, what do you mean? And he said, oh, mate, out the back. I was out the back about 15 years ago out in the Hargraves, Mudgee. And he said, I seen something. I said to him, what did you see? And he said, I don't know. I just don't know. I said, what do you mean? He said, all I know for my whole life out in the Australian bush is I know what's out there. He said, what I seen that day, he said, I can't explain it. And he won't tell me because he doesn't know. Like I always ask him every year when I catch up with him, I say, what you see? He said, I don't know, mate. Which all I know is it shouldn't be out there.
Makes you
wonder. That's where it started. Oh, it's incredible. And like these old blokes and these old people out there in Australia, they just won't talk. I think if they do talk, they're just absolute nutters.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's
incredible.
That's the real shame of the old bushy tales. It's I reckon there's some incredible stories that are just going to be lost to history for the sake of shame,
absolutely.
embarrassment, and the fear of ridicule, which is really disappointing. So it's a bloody shame.
It is, because especially these people which live out there in the bush and they do see things, and they might see some lights and bits and pieces and UFOs, or they could see the Australian Yowie and whatnot, and they won't say it. There's no way.
No.
And half of them don't have the technology to even hear like a podcast or anything like that. They don't have that technology. And when they said it down the pub, their mates would say, oh, you've had a few drinks, mate, you'll be right.
Yeah.
But there's definitely, when you're starting to get the older guys, older generations now starting to talk about it because of, people like yourself, it's great. It's great to hear some of these stories. It's unbelievable. Some of the stories out there now, it's starting to really, really coming up, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's the whole reason we kind of do this show is to really bring light to these things because, there's not a lot of people out there doing it. And the ones that are, I think they're all doing a really bang up job. So, yeah, Dean, mate, I would love to actually sit down with you and really go in depth with you. Mate, if you want to jump on, I'd love to do a full interview with you if you're down for that.
Yeah, I would. I'd really like to it sort of sounds weird, but I'd love to get off my chest.
I understand that. I totally get that. And mate, the best way to do that, are you watching this on Facebook or on YouTube?
Not at the moment. No, I was just caught up.
Oh, there you go. Well, mate, the best thing you could do is shoot me a message on Facebook or send me an email, because I would love to get you on the show ASAP to talk about it. And mate, I'd even love to show the paperwork if you're if that's a possibility.
Yeah, no, I've got it all documented. The piece of the paperwork I got back in when I was in the Australian Defence Force, I meant to take the copy of it, and unfortunately there was a problem. Somebody stuffed up and didn't take the paperwork. So I've actually still got the original copies of the paperwork of what happened that night, what was signed. So it wasn't actually meant to come home with me. So I've still got the original paperwork. Yeah.
So you know what? That's fair game because it hasn't been filed. It hasn't been classified.
Yeah. No, that's right. And it's like I said, it's taken me a long time to sort of get to the point where I'd love to tell people stories, because a lot of other people are starting to come out and tell stories. So it's, from 2000, it's only 20 years, but it's it's sort of the paperwork's there. I've got a couple of other people that are more willing to talk up, which they've left their jobs and their career at this time, so they've got nothing to lose. So it's something I'd love to take out there and show the guys too.
Mate,
it'd be great.
I'm absolutely keen for this. So if you can, I don't know, best way for you to contact me, jump on the Facebook page and shoot a message directly through there, and we can tee something up. Because I'd love to get chatting to you like next week if possible.
Yeah, mate, not a problem at all. I'd love to tell all and show a bit of evidence.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be fully happy to help you do that.
Yeah, that'd be great. And thank you too, for help sort of the way you come across to people where you can feel open enough to talk about it. It's really good.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That does mean a lot too.
Yeah, it does help us always. It's great.
Oh, thank you, mate. I appreciate the kind words, and thank you so much for calling in, Dean. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to you, mate. And I can't wait to dive in deeper with you, mate.
Yeah, definitely, mate. There's obviously a lot of evidence and paperwork there that has silenced us guys for a few years. So I'm more than happy now to bring that out and bring that on to you fellas, and you can put that out there.
Perfect, mate. I'd love to do that. It would be a real pleasure.
You take care up north and be good.
Yeah, cheers, mate. You have a great night.
Okay, thank you. Take care.
Cheers.
Bye.
Wow. I have absolutely no words for that. Are we about to get documented evidence that the Australian Army is covering up the existence of Yowies? Potentially, and that blows my bloody mind. I've been trying to get my hands on some evidence from the Army for quite a while, because there's a lot of rumors that go around saying that the Tully or it might be the Ingham Army base there, they have a handbook that basically has instructions on what to do if you encounter a Yowie. And this is in a handbook, an official handbook from the Australian Army. So if you're listening and you got a copy of that, I would love to get that off you. I'd love to take that off your hands. We do have another call coming in. We'll get them on the air. Caller, what's your name and where you're from?
Truckee Witness.
Truckee Witness. Glenn, how are you, my friend?
I'm great, mate. How are you?
I'm very good. It's good to hear from you, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's good to hear from you again, too, mate. I've been trying to catch up with you for ages, but yeah, haven't worked out. I just thought I'd pop in and say good day to you and everyone. Just a social call and all that sort of stuff. It was my wife's birthday the other day, and I got her windows tinted on a new Triton by Dark Matters Tinting, Gary Lynn.
Big shout out to Gary Lynn.
Big shout out to Gary Lynn and Dark Matters Tinting, because he did an awesome job. And oh shit, the job that he did, yeah, no, it was awesome. If anyone's down anywhere near the Gold Coast or the hinterlands or even the sunny coast, Gary will travel, and he does an awesome job, mate. This thing looks awesome now, and it's, yeah, me and Gary had a bit of a catch up, and we spoke, and yeah, he told me a few things about my experience. He's learned a couple of things. I can't say too much because everyone will say foo-foo. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So, no, we had a good old catch up, me and Gary, and it was just really, really good to speak to him. And like, if you ever get a chance to speak to any of these AYR guys, I know you have, but I'm just talking to the listeners. If you ever get a chance to speak to any of these guys, they're so full of information, ideas, all that sort of stuff.
They're absolute wealth of knowledge.
Yes, exactly. And you can take what you want out of them. Some of the stuff you don't want to believe, but half of you wants to believe. But once you've seen one of these big guys, you do believe. I don't know. It sounds like I'm talking shit, but yeah. I just rang up to say g'day to everyone, and that I caught up with Gary the other day, and we had a good old yarn, and it was awesome. And the only other thing I wanted to say was I hope that any of the listeners that are suffering from the floods down south of us, I know we had a lot of rain, but right down at the New South Wales Victorian border and around Forbes and Parks and a lot of inland stuff, everyone's been suffering floods. I just really wish them all the best, and I know what it's like. I've been through it myself, and yeah, I just really wish all of them the best. And yeah,
no,
that's about all I got to say, mate. I just thought I'd ring up and say good day and wish everyone the best.
Yeah. No, it's great to hear from you, mate. And the line's always open for you to drop a chat, because I always love to touch base with previous guests and mates. So thank you for giving me a buzz there.
Sure, mate. We've got to catch up live. I've never met you in person, mate. That's one of my goals in life now, is to get up there and meet you in person.
Mate, right. I'm an illusion. I'm an AI construct.
An enigma.
Indeed.
Yeah. All right, mate. Love your work.
Thank you, mate. Thank you for calling in. Thank you for thanks for the chat.
We'll see you soon.
Absolutely, mate. I'll have to make a trip down.
Love you. Bye.
Catch you, mate.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, you do. You have got to make a trip down here, because there's so many people around Brisbane area, like that would love, like, we'd all fucking quit work for the day, just to come and meet you, have a cuppa or a beer or whatever. So you got to make the trip down here, mate. I've always got accommodation. You got free accommodation down here for sure. Oh, you know that anyway. Like Dean and Gary and all the AYR crew would have made that clear to you. So you got accommodation down here. Your wife and your kids, yeah, all welcome down here, mate.
Mate, absolutely. I'm going to hold you to it.
Yeah, get on to it.
Will do, mate. Will do.
All right, mate. Love your work.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for calling in. Appreciate it.
See you. Bye.
Cheers, mate. Sneaky little social chat there by Glenn Truckee Witness. And just a little heads up there is if you are a Yowie enthusiast, be sure to keep an eye out on on all your streaming platforms. I don't know where it's actually going to be coming out yet, but it will be soon. But that is track number 2. And that's the second documentary produced by big friend of the show, Attila Caldi, and the AYR crew, myself and Truckee, all making an appearance within this documentary, and it is fantastic. Not just because I'm in it, but it is. Attila does great work, and I love the first track, and I can't wait for everyone to get their hands on track 2. I hope he really does like a launch event or something like that, because I'd love to go down and attend that. So if you are in the Brisbane area, let me know if you want me to come down to Brisbane too, because who knows, maybe we can do a bit of a live show down that way. Our analytics do tell us that we do get quite a few listeners from that region. So if that's you, let me know. I would be all for that, because why not? I think it would be good fun. Now, guys, I'm going to dip back into the tales from the voicemail archive, and let's see what other goodies we have here for tonight.
Yeah, hi. My name's Tracy. I'm actually in Townsville now, but I used to live down at Maxville in New South Wales on the mid-north coast. My husband and I decided to go fishing one night, and it's out near Southwest Rocks, Jerseyville, and there's a big bridge that you go over. Well, anyway, we used to go there and fish for the whole night. So we'd get in our canoe and we'd row over there to the middle pylon of the bridge, and because it's really good lighting from the lights up above. Anyway, my husband was fishing for some live bait while I was down the other end towards the mouth of the river, and I threw in my line, which was kind of towards under the bridge, and then because the tide was going out, so I was actually going with the line out with the current. Anyway, I don't know how long I'd actually been standing there for, but it was dark. It was about 1:30 in the morning, and you could still see, like, it wasn't a full moon, but it was actually where you could still see the tree lines, but it was pretty dark, but you could see the tree lines. Anyhow, I don't know how long I'd been staring out around that area for, but all of a sudden in the distance in the water, a big, beautiful dark blue ring lit up in the water, and I was kind of staring at it, mesmerised by it, wasn't really thinking too much of it, and then not sure how long after, but a really big light blue, like a fluoro blue, lit up around the darker blue ring, and I was actually, still staring at it, but not really thinking too much of it, and it was almost like a trance type of feeling because there was nothing running through my mind at the time. I wasn't thinking about anything, just staring at this light. Anyhow, I've snapped out of it and kind of looked up, but out of the corner of my eye to the left, there was a house over there. There was this, I don't know what it was. I know I've seen something. I yelled out to my husband and I looked at it and it just went really, really quick. It just flashed out of sight. I'm not really sure what I saw, but I know I saw something. And I have heard that other people have witnessed sightings around that area. Yeah, so that's my story. And actually, I'm always looking up in the sky, but I'm kind of scared if I do see something again, but fascinated if I do. Anyhow, that's my story, and thank you for listening.
That's a cracker of a story, and thank you for calling in and sharing that. That is a certified USO encounter. So the difference, a USO encounter is a unidentified submerged object, and I guess that term is kind of getting a little bit of a rebrand, so to say, with everything that's kind of going on in the US government and reclassification of what these crafts or vehicles are. But when that is quite an old voicemail on the system there, and I to be honest, I think that was actually probably played in our very first episode. But yeah, a USO, underwater UFO, essentially, best way to think of it. And yeah, this definitely sounds like it's an incredible encounter. Just, I couldn't imagine the thought process of seeing a massive illuminated light come out of the water and take off. It would definitely be one that would stick with you for quite a while. So I'm going to jump back into the voicemail archive, and let's see what kind of tale we can produce from this one.
Hey, g'day. Yeah, my name's Lee, and had a couple of UFO experiences. Sorry if I'm scratchy, I've just finished night shift. But they were both UFO sightings that I had were 6 weeks apart, and it looked exactly the same. And both times I was on my motorbike. So the first time was riding to the Gold Coast. I looked in the sky ahead of me, and it looked like a parachute. And what I noticed was it wasn't travelling left or right, up or down. It was just hovering. So I had a second look, and I thought, there's no one underneath that parachute, and it's not going anywhere. And after looking at it a bit closer, I noticed it was sort of a bluey, pale blue colour, and it was see-through. And I had to turn a corner, so I kept looking back, and I finally lost sight of it, and I couldn't see it in the sky, and I had to let it go because I had to sort of manoeuvre through some traffic. And I came home, I told my wife, and I told a few other people, and sort of, we were as excited as I was, I suppose. And then 6 weeks later, I had my wife on the bike with me, and we were chatting on the intercom, and all of a sudden she said, "Is that what you saw?" And as she said that, I looked up, and it was exactly the same object, just floating in the sky above us. And we had a bit of a hill in front of us, and we were riding around it, so we lost sight of the UFO, and we were only out of sight for a couple of seconds, and it disappeared. And I said to my wife, if that was an F-111 flying through the sky, we still would have been able to see it. So it disappeared very quickly. But yeah, that's my sightings, and it's really interesting. And it wasn't long after that things started happening in the house. But I live in an old house built in 1920, an old Queenslander, so I don't know if that's related, but I've seen a light in my house. I've heard someone say hello, and I've also seen someone walk through the house. But pretty bizarre. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the story. Thanks, guys.
What a tease to end it like that. I had two fantastic UFO encounters, and then weird stuff started happening in my house. Oh yeah, thank you. Goodbye. No, but seriously, thank you so much for calling in and leaving us that voicemail. I do want to let people know that the voicemail is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you can. The number is always available on any episode of the podcast that you listen to. If you just go into the show notes, you'll find it there. But we also have it on the screen. So, you can call in tonight, you can call in tomorrow, whenever you want. Because I know calling in live can be a little bit daunting. And I see a lot of people in the comments say that they have a story that they want to share, but they're just a little bit too anxious about doing it live and with someone on the other end. So I totally get that. So that's why we've got the voicemail there. So if that's you, please call in on the voicemail, because I will love to share your story, and you can stay completely anonymous. I don't know who you are. I don't see your phone number. So it is a really, really great way to share your encounter. We do have one more call that I want to share, and it's a long one. This one is, I believe this person has been a guest on the show, but it is all about past lives, and it's from their child. So I'm going to play this one. It goes for about 10 minutes. So grab a beer, grab a coffee, depending on the time of day, or a wine, and sit down and enjoy this fascinating tale from the voicemail.
I'd like to discuss one of my son's experiences with past life, or what I believe is a past life. My son was only about 6 years old. He came to me one morning and very matter of fact told me that he'd been stabbed in his dream. I sat him down and asked him to tell me all about it. He described as being in a large group of soldiers. He didn't actually use the word soldiers. He described it as just a group of, he said they were wearing helmets, they had little swords. He described in great detail what they were wearing. So it definitely was a group of soldiers. He said they were all on foot, and he said they were being led, or he said there was a man up the front wearing a funny helmet. He said that the man in the front held up his hand, signalling the group to stop. And as they looked around them, they could see people laying on the road in front. And he said he knew they were dead. The next thing he knew, people were yelling and jumping out from the forest on either side. He said some were wearing animal skins, like with he described it as, at the time he said it was bear, wolf, but the pelt was on their shoulders and head mainly. He said some of them had paint or some sort of smudging on their face. He said they were carrying little short swords, but they weren't the same swords he was carrying. Arrows, little axes. They were basically ambushed. He said he wasn't worried. He said he wasn't worried about he wasn't worried about death, but he was worried about leaving his friends. So he described it to me as, I left. I was scared, so I ran, but I left them. He said the next thing he knew, he was grabbed from behind. He said he could feel the arm come around his chest and stab him in the back, in the upper back, and then he lifted up his pajama top, and he showed me where he was also stabbed in the upper chest. He knew he was dying. He knew death was coming, but he said death didn't worry him. He was just more concerned that he had run away. He was really, really upset. He was crying. He said, I left them. I ran. Mum, I left them. I ran. He was visibly upset about that fact, not about the fact that he had died. So I have studied ancient history and archaeology, so I had a fairly good idea of what he was describing, but I wasn't sure. So I pulled up Google and just asked him to stop me if anything looked familiar, and I was just flicking through images of Roman army images, and he pointed out, so the guy in the funny helmet was in fact a Roman centurion. The uniform that James had described, the sword that he was carrying, was a Roman foot soldier, like 100%. The stuff he described, I mean, he couldn't. At 6 years old, he had not even been exposed to any sort of ancient history. So the fact that he could come up with these sort of details was just absolutely mind-boggling. To me, it was clear he was part of some sort of Roman legion. Don't know where. He didn't know where. He just could describe the terrain and what he was wearing. Possibly, based on the description he gave me, they were barbarians. So there is a few more well-known attacks involving them. But once again, it's a bit hard to say where or who or... Anyway, so he is now 13 years old and he can still recall that in great detail. I mean, I can ask him any question, he can tell me just as though it was yesterday. And for me, like with my own personal experiences, which I believe are past lives, I definitely think they're past lives. I mean, I don't think those sort of dreams where you can feel, you can smell, you can, and a child, I mean, a 6-year-old child, I don't think you can just write it off as being fantasy or a dream. I think past lives is definitely real. And for children more so, I mean, he was visibly upset about it. He has actually had several past life, or what I believe are past life dreams. Another one, he described himself as being in World War II. He didn't actually tell me if he was English or Australian or part of another army, but he did say that he was shot by the Nazis. So he was actually lined up with other men and shot dead. He hasn't told me too much about that, but it's interesting that he obviously recalls that and recalls being shot, but he's actually very, very much obsessed with World War II and modern history. Another one, which we actually had a shared experience, just very, very, very quickly. He was about 3 years old. I had a dream the previous night of being, it was almost like a Stonehenge, but it wasn't Stonehenge. We were a group of kids. We were in a circle. There were fire torches, and I'd had a baby. I remember running away from this group because for the reason they were going to sacrifice a child. I was actually a seer, or what was known as a seer. Anyway, in this dream, I was just running. I could feel the sticks scratching into my bare feet. It was incredibly vivid, incredibly detailed. I just woke up the next morning and just thought, wow, A couple of probably weeks, I would say weeks later, I was picking up my son from my mother because I was working full-time. And he started yabbering away to me in the back. So he was only 3, so he wasn't really forming sentences. He wasn't really talking. He was saying a few words here and there. He actually said to me, "Mummy, you Brina," and that's how he said it. He described in detail the dream, but from a different perspective. He described how I looked. He asked why I had cut my hair, why I had dyed my hair. He said I had long black hair. I was actually so shocked and so shaken, I pulled over on the side of the road just to listen to him and just gather my thoughts because I physically could not drive. I was really, really shocked. And then he went on to describe that we lived together in what he described. He perfectly described a roundhouse. He described the dog we had. There was just me and him living at this roundhouse with this dog. It was absolutely mind-boggling. A child at that age that was hardly even forming sentences was recalling in detail the dream I had had weeks previous. Interestingly enough, when we relocated to England, when he was about 5 years old, we did take him to Stonehenge, probably when he was about 6 or 7. And he went up to one of the exhibits because there's like an exhibition centre there, and they've got a lot of stuff on show, Stone Age tools, etc. And he actually went up to the exhibit that the lady was rearranging and told her that she had placed the tools in the wrong position, that it wasn't correctly labelled. And when my husband reprimanded him, she said, "Oh no, he's quite right. We actually haven't moved it into its proper location yet." And she looked at me and looked at James, and I could see the look on her face. I mean, it was how he knew. I mean, how could he know? How could he know at that age? I mean, he hadn't been exposed to anything like that. He hadn't read about, Stonehenge or the Stone Age people or the tools they used and what they used them for. How he knew was absolutely mind-boggling. So I 100% believe in past lives. I believe that children definitely have more recall than adults. I have had several experiences myself, and I do believe that our interests reflect our past life. I have strong interest in particular periods in history, and I do believe it's a connection to past life. It's the same with my son. Interestingly enough, my youngest son hasn't ever said anything like that or hasn't had any dreams or, anything like that. So it's chalk and cheese, really. But I just find it an absolutely fascinating subject. I've got plenty of other experiences, particularly with James. Obviously, if people have listened to my podcast, they'll have more of an idea of that particular site. But I find it all very interesting. Thanks again, Cade. Bye.
Unreal stuff. Absolutely unreal. I was correct that lovely lady had been on the podcast, and I realized about 10 seconds into her story that she had. So guys, we have reached the end of tonight, and it has been fantastic. I see a lot of people in the comments saying that they wish we did more video. Let me know if you want us to do more video. Comment in the wherever you're watching right now and say yes, more video. And I'll tally it up. I'll see if it matches the viewers that are watching, because it is a lot of work to do the video, and I'm happy to do it. So comment in the video, in your chat, wherever you're watching right now. Let me know if you do want this to go to more video more of the time. So we can definitely look at doing that. But that's gonna bring us to the end of tonight's show. What a fascinating collection of stories from the voicemail. And let me know if you want me to continue to pull stories from the voicemail, because I think that's a really fantastic way to let people share their stories and do it without the pressure. So there's 2 pieces of homework for the people watching live. Do you want the video, and do you want more stories from the voicemail? Because I think it's a bit of a treasure trove. And guys, that's going to pretty much do it for tonight. This is going to be available on Facebook and YouTube for another 24 hours, and then it will be disappearing to the Believe Plus members only. And if that is something you're interested in, you can join Believe Plus. It's $5 a month, and you can get ad-free episodes, and you'll get about 50 or so bonus podcast episodes that aren't available to the public. So that's very, very good value in my opinion. But that's going to do it for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I am going to leave you with a bit of a treat, though, because this week's episode, at time of recording, of release more so, we had Mark join us on the podcast, and a lot of people have been responding incredibly well to his encounter. Series of encounters, to be honest. So, and a lot of people have said we need to get him back on to the podcast. Do not worry, I have recorded another interview with him. I'm hoping to drop that in season 16 as well. If not, it'll be early season 17. If you do want to come on the show, please let me know. I'm always looking for guests. But to kind of go full circle there, Mark has a band called Paranormal Disneyland, and has kindly supplied me with 3 songs to play to the audience tonight. I'm going to play one of them just because we kind of chewed up the live show time tonight. And guys, if you like him, go have a look for him on, I believe he will have a Spotify platform. Disneyland is DYS, not the DIS, just so there is no legal ramifications there from what I've been told. But yeah, tonight we're going to leave it. We're going to end the show with a song from Paranormal Disneyland called Race It Hasn't Run. So if this is in your wheelhouse, be sure to go check out the Paranormal Disneyland, wherever you get your music from. So thank you again to everyone who joined me tonight. If you do like what you hear, consider joining Believe Plus, because you'll get 50 other episodes just like this. And guys and girls and everyone else, thank you so much for your time. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. And especially everyone in the flood affected areas, my thoughts are with you. And please, please, if it's flooded, forget it. Do not drive in that water. It is never worth it. And guys, I will see you on the next live stream.
People waiting in the sun, it's never gonna rain. It won't be in a hurry, it shall remain the same. Some strange ideas run through my head, the cattle will call out. Can we hold on to carbon and tax the fucker out? I'm waiting for the government to crack down hard on this. There's revolution in the air. Let's not miss out on this. And when my thoughts coagulate and stay inside my head, I jump right down the rabbit hole. I'm better left off dead. Patience is a virtue, our time is gonna come. Back yourself, admit it. Your race, it hasn't